Welcome. I guess we're way too loud for this thing. Okay, so hopefully it's working. Our muting is universal.
Yes.
So hopefully they can hear us out there, because this would be a really bad broadcast if somebody can't hear us. So
Oh boy.
hopefully it's oh wait, I'm on the wrong side. I'm on the side. I'm on the side. I'm on the side of the jackass right now. You're on the side of the
elephant.
The elephant.
Back in there.
That's okay.
I could be the jackass.
No, I am a jackass, so you can't do that.
That's true. I'm the asshole.
Are you? I didn't know that.
Oh,
listen. Welcome to the best show in Orlando, J&W's presentation of You Can't Make This Shit Up. Now, that rendition that we just had, I kind of liked it because it's a little country. It's you can't make this up. He kind of hits a point there, but he just misses the mark by saying it's a love song, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, he forgets to say you can't make this shit up. Right? He sat down in the chair that she had just left. She forgot her cell phone. She comes back. Man, it's like bam. Then all of a sudden, you go out to the car. Guess what? Shit won't start. Well, you gotta give her a ride. Ooh, didn't know we lived like almost next door to each other. So that's kind of where politics is, right?
Oh yes.
So midterm elections.
Before we get to that, who are we? Who are you?
No, it doesn't matter. They know who we are by now. I'm Joel Hawksley. This is David Washington of J and Washington LLC, and you can't make this shit up. I totally forgot to say that, and you just got it. So this is how a whole show will be. It'll be all about not making this shit up. Now I have to be at couples counseling at 2:00. So if this thing gets like really bad, we may have to bring you to my couples counseling.
Because I missed my couples counseling Tuesday night. I thought it'd be a mulligan, but yeah, I can make it up that way.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that at Baldwin, you live in Baldwin, you'll have a good time. So midterm elections, I mean, everybody's like, oh, Joel and David should be on like the very next week. Well, let me tell you, it was hard to digest. It was seriously hard to digest. There was so many moving parts. There was so much excitement, disappointment. I mean, for me, David, it was a good night to be a Republican in the state of Florida.
It was a good night for you all.
And as much as it pains me, because Rishi is just a really good guy and should have absolutely had been elected, it was not in the cards because the GOP played to win.
They did.
Period.
They did. Hats off to the GOP, Florida. They did well. Democrats should have known, and I believe they did know, that with the GOP surpassing, the Florida GOP surpassing in total registration of voters by, 300,000 registered voters this year, that the Democrats were going to be in trouble.
I know it was 114,000 when we started to, really talk about it. So yeah, it could well be.
I think it was a net gain of about 500,000. I'll check my numbers. However, if my memory
it's still the first time that Republicans have absolutely moved into that number one spot.
Correct.
We've had the legislature since for at least 20 years now.
Nearly a generation.
Well, it's, if you look at the history, there were no Democrats, there were no Republicans up there. So, if you want to reclassify us as the new Democrat Party, like everybody else wants to say, you'd have something there. But I don't see it.
Mhm.
I see a lot of turmoil in the Republican Party, but I see that as energy, trying to find our identity.
Mhm.
Who's going to lead us into the future? I mean, all of this is good for my party, and I see nobody sitting on the bench. I see nobody in the state of Florida that I could say, look, that's the guy. That's the guy that's going to take the mantle for the Democrats in the state of Florida.
Okay.
You know, there's no Nikki Free.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
she's tied to Joel Greenberg, Republicans, all this other stuff, and all of a sudden she falls apart. Charlie Crist, you know my opinion of Charlie Crist. Listen, I have no animosity towards the man, but you can't tell me that when you have two Supreme Court justices the Democrats want out, they literally want them out, and you put them on the court. How do you come across and say, listen, I want you to elect me
Right.
and forget that I was a Republican? I mean, what's the energy to get you out to vote? For me, I see the hypocrisy
Mhm.
as an absolute distraction.
Mhm.
And then the energy that's put into the party, or the Republican Party, because Ron DeSantis, he stands up for what he believes in, whether you agree with him or not.
Right.
He's like, I'm not going to shut this government down. You know, people die of the flu all the time. People die of, you know, all these different, you know, causes. You know, and just because every single death is going to be tied to COVID, I can't. I have to embrace science,
Mhm.
which everybody says, "Oh, well, he didn't embrace it." He embraced science
Mhm.
because we were trying to redefine science. To
Right.
me, science is always to disprove something.
Right.
Look, you gave me a vaccine, and I thought vaccines were supposed to be like the polio vaccine. You're supposed to get rid of something, right? Not temper it down. Like, you can't tell me after you got two vaccines, all of a sudden everybody who didn't have COVID had COVID.
Well, I see. And at one point, I thought you were talking about the Republicans and not having, an identity and fighting, etc.
But we
then
don't.
you clarified. But you clarified. You started talking about the Democrats, and I want to talk about. I see your point, and we could go further and further into that. However, as I thought about the election over this last, the Florida election over the last week and a half or so, I realized that there's different opinions. Some are valuable, some are not. However, those valuable opinions from those who are in the field, those who are experienced at this, I take very seriously. Yours, mine, more importantly. However, what I see the issue is voter behavior.
Oh,
And everyone has their opinion, their 10-point plan on how the Democrats can change this. If there's going to be any change, the Democrats have to change their behavior. But more importantly, the Florida voter has to change his behavior.
I'm going to cut you off because I totally agree with you.
Mhm.
But when you and I sat down
Against everything you just said.
before we even started our relationship in Jay in Washington,
Mhm.
the one thing I said is the Democrats have a problem with midterm elections.
Sure.
They always have. They always will. I do not know how you can change this. Midterm elections, they have a problem.
Sure.
In the state of Florida, very evident.
Mhm.
Across the country, not so evident. But let's get into where you wanted to start. You wanted to start locally. And I want to
Yes.
start by congratulating you, congratulating, Maribel Gomez Cordero.
Yes.
You know, a reelection that will, definitely will definitely benefit the county. But it should have never gone to a runoff.
That's true.
But certain ballot initiatives and stuff like that,
Mhm.
ways she voted, it became a
Contentious.
Yeah. So the money that was spent against her was ineffective compared to the money that the Democrats had to suffer against from the
Correct.
GOP. So maybe you cover the local a little bit, because it's going to be really, in the local we have two new faces. Well, what, not a new face, but I mean,
Right.
we got one new face, but we
Right.
got
On the Orange County Commission.
yes, on the Orange County Commission. I'm sorry, I misspoke, but Maribel's always going to be a new face because she's Maribel. She's the only commissioner that has a first name.
Yes.
And I mean, I can't tell you enough. I can never think, oh, Commissioner Cordet. No, it's Maribel.
Yep.
And
Commissioner
I think
Maribel.
that's what's so natural about her.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have somebody new on the commission from District 6 because Sibling is no longer,
She's
turned out.
And now Mike Scott is representing, as of December, will be representing District 6. And I want to say at the local level, state level down, the local state races.
Oh, let's
the
talk about the county first.
Okay,
The state's going to be fun. No, don't get into
the county.
Don't get into the state until we can have some fun.
And I don't want to, and we'll have to come back to this subject, the election wrap up, local edition, because the numbers just aren't out, particularly in regards to turnout. And all the turnout numbers are not yet crunched, and we haven't done our postmortems yet. However, what I can see right now is disappointing. The turnout. If there's anything emblematic of the local 2022 elections, is the turnout. The turnout was poor. The turnout, if my numbers are correct, were down 15 to 18% in Orange County alone. If you look at the same numbers back in 2018.
Okay.
Osceola and Seminole County, similar numbers, about 10 to 15%
So
lower turnout.
So you're saying, let me clarify this because I just want to be clear with everybody out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying in 2018, Republicans and Democrats and MPAs
Mm-hmm.
came out in a greater number than they did totally in 2022.
Percentage wise.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, clearly percentage wise. So
Yeah.
as a population, even if we had more
Right.
people,
Correct.
it was the percentage.
Correct.
So we register more voters.
Correct.
And yet we have less percentage coming out in a midterm.
That's correct.
So when professionals say, how do they kind of put it with that, excitement, what's the excitement index, right?
Sure. Yes. Over excitement.
I mean, the state of Florida was excited, but not as excited as you would say because the percentage was down. That's how you're saying it. Okay.
As a whole for Florida, Republicans came out at a higher rate than Democrats, but locally, again, Democrats sat back, and despite the rent stabilization ordinance, the transportation tax increase, voters were not engaged.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to go out and vote for a penny. I'm struggling right now, David. I'm struggling. And you want me to add a penny to every single dollar for transportation that I don't use?
Every specific single dollar. Not everything is going to be taxed a penny.
I'm just saying. You're saying
yes.
You want me to come out
Mm-hmm.
and vote to spend more money on my government?
Yes.
Okay, now picture this, right? The economy sucks. Now, when Jerry pulled it off,
mm-hmm.
right? He pulled it off because of COVID.
Right.
He would have had better chance of getting it passed during COVID than he would when the economy is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rent ordinance, okay, they call it rent stabilization. the court says it's misleading and all this other stuff.
Right.
It's not constitutional, but at least, hey, let's let it go. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, it's exactly what Maribel was talking about. Just because, let the people hear it, talk about it, see where they're at. So she puts it on the ballot. But then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, okay, well, it's not going to be legal anyways. Well, so what? So what? Let's see what they want to say. So 60% said, hey, they would support something like this.
Right.
So that means 60% of the people would take my rights, my right to, set prices on my property. Well, that's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. It wins, but it won't be counted or certified because the court said, I don't care what you say. I don't care how you reason this. Why would you put something unconstitutional in front of the people?
Exactly.
I have no dog in this fight. I see both sides and I go, complicated.
And see, I don't. It's illegal.
I get that, but I'm saying
I understand the argument, given by Judge Ashton, by Commissioner
Yeah, but-
Gomez-Cadero. However,
my
the
problem
fact remains is that
my problem
it's
is
preempted.
my problem is the leadership on this. The leadership on this is lacking because Emily Bonilla, Commissioner Emily Bonilla is absolutely out of touch with how government works. She absolutely doesn't get it. She sits there in these meetings and acts like she doesn't get it.
Right.
She acts like, okay, I know you've told me 12 times I can't spend this money on X, but the people want me to say, spend it on X. So let me spend it on X. And the lawyer says, okay, let's get back on track and let's move forward because I just told you you can't spend it on X. Now, if you spend it on Y, you're good. And she'll sit there and go, but the people want me to spend it on X. You can tell you're about the people, but that's not about the people. That's about not understanding government.
Right.
Look, if you understood government, you'd find a way to make X payable with that money, right? You go to the state government. You'd find a way. Don't sit there and just make yourself look like a fool because you still want to spend it on X. We all know you want to spend it on X.
You're trying to make sense out of
nonsense.
Exactly. And I believe with Commissioner Bonilla, there is a method to her madness. I think she knows what she's doing because I know of her. I know her personally because of my involvement in her 2016 campaign.
I wouldn't know anybody just because she fires them all. So I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody that's actually had any length of time with her. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Okay.
Ouch.
I'm sorry. I have to be mean. I have to be mean sometimes.
I believe with Commissioner Bonilla, she's coming from a populist approach. Whether there's a groundswell of support for that, among certain parties, there are organized entities. Is that support amongst the people? I don't know. I don't see.
Well, 60%, 60% agree with her on rent stabilization.
Right. And most people, if you're giving them something, they're going to say yes to it. If you're taking something away from them, they're going to say no.
Are we
saying the transportation tax, taking away something?
I'm saying 60%, 60% of the people that are probably in rentals right now and going, God, I would love to force my landlord to have to keep my rent down low.
And Commissioner Bonilla believes that those folks are going to support those populist ideas and initiatives that she'll bring forward in the future, but not fully educate them on the fact that, as with the rent stabilization, it's illegal. And I've had this conversation with some activists on this piece. It'll take some education for the public the voting public to understand the limitations that county government has, that city government has. And in Jason Garcia's article about preemptions, I have not read it completely.
Mhm.
I saw the points. Maybe I did read it. I've been reading too much. It's never too much to read.
I think Jason. I just want to pipe in here. I think Jason, as far as being part of the Sentinel, he's actually one of the good guys. Like, I mean, he really explains things in a way that,
and that's what we need.
He doesn't have a left or right agenda.
Right.
And my attack on the Sentinel is always, listen, you can't lean totally in one direction and expect us to keep on supporting you.
Depends on who's paying you and who's reading you.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it is what it is, I think.
And I mean, I'd love to be engaged with that conversation, but that's a different day.
But Jason's article, I saw the tweets, the tweet thread, and it exposes the difficulty of local governments determining their own destinies. And if voters understood that, if this message was repeated over and over again in a targeted campaign by parties who disagree with this preemption, perhaps we'll have more engagement by the voting public. And this goes back to why the Democrats failed this past cycle. With what little money they had, in my professional opinion, they distributed it poorly. With what little money they had, I would have dedicated a lot of it to, and thinking long term, a majority of it to registering new Democrats.
Well, I read, I'm going to interrupt you there, they started that and it imploded on them. And as soon as it imploded on them, they ran a different direction. So what you're saying is where they wanted to be, but for some reason they didn't stick to that ground.
Stick to a goddamn plan.
But that's it. You can't make this shit up. They had the plan, which you just mentioned, which is exactly what they should have done. But then they were getting their ass handed to them by the Republicans. The Republicans put out, hey, we got 114,000 more voters for the first time ever. We outdo the Democrats. And what did the Democrats do? Well, let's stop registering voters and go after the MPAs. Well, what are you going to do? You didn't do anything because they didn't. I'm going to back off because
the Democrats failed to maintain, sustain their strategy. They walk away when something scares them. They react. They get all into their feelings. Locally, they get all into their feelings. The local democratic organizations sit back and let things happen. The state Democratic organization sits back and let things happen. The Republicans make things happen, period. And that's what the Democrats need to do. And they need to do that often. They need to have a strategy for the next 10 years, next 10 to 12, 14 years, because you can say goodbye to, the next decade because of redistricting, because of the super majorities that the Republicans have. Democrats need to look themselves in the mirror, look at each other, say goodbye to this groupthink, to this living in fear, reacting in fear, and go about the business of the people. All people, not their individual cliques or groups or things like that, because they're not talking to one another. They fear talking to one another.
No,
with the Republicans, you see everyone. What's what I'm looking for? You see Republicans coming together.
Well, we don't have
the fractions, but coming together and getting the job done.
We have issues.
Yes, of course.
But even with our issues, we haven't divorced ourselves from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like we literally still try to come to common ground on everything. We still know if you're a Republican, we're going to try to support you.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. I'm going to talk outside the box. I'm going to go national for just a second. Well,
Just a little bit.
state.
Just a little.
It's a
I wanna
state.
say local.
Listen, it's a state, but I'm
Right.
going to bring an example
Mhm.
from another state.
Mhm.
Lake and Hobbs. If anybody been paying attention to the governor's race
Mhm.
in Arizona,
Mhm.
the thing is, Lake lost
Mhm.
because specifically in a state, and I say this about Trump too,
Okay.
you cannot take an individual like John McCain, who is the picture of your maverick Republican,
Right.
the guy that's going to get shit done for you. That same thing you're talking about. You can't have a room full of people look at them and say, are there any McCain Republicans in this room?
Mm-hmm.
You hear a little bit of cheering. She says, get out. Well, guess what? They got out. They didn't vote for you. And guess what? You lost by a hair because you were stupid enough to think that you could diss John McCain in the Republican. Listen, that you can't make exactly. You can't make this shit up. You just told even 4%, 10%. I don't care how small a percentage is. You just kicked them out.
Yep.
You basically said, "I don't want your vote," and guess what? You lost.
Public
so don't come by. Don't come blaming anybody else because you did it. And that's what I talk about with the Republican Party. Some of the MAGA, some of the. You can't throw somebody out. But as much as you hate them, and I don't have a problem with you hating them, don't throw them out. Make them feel welcome. That's what Republicans most of the time do.
I've experienced it.
I don't want you to feel alienated. I don't want you to come into my office and think, first thing I want to know is if you're a Democrat or Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that when Stephanie Murphy got elected, I felt that my party made more of an impact in visiting her office than it would anywhere else. And look, I'm a guy that's been friendly with, Ted Kennedy for good.
Right.
I mean, it's like I don't look at your party if you got a personality.
Right.
Oh, and I'll say some really terrible things about Ted Kennedy, but
Sure.
I'll also say some really good things about who he was and what he's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't change my party affiliation. But Carrie Lake made a big mistake. And as small as it is, and she will never notice it, she has to blame herself.
Oh, sure.
And I say the same thing. You can blame the election, you can blame all these people, but I watched you say, get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm back up. But the Democrats, the problem I see with the Democrats right now is it's always been about numbers. I told you when we first met, Democrats don't rely on a message. They rely on the numbers. I don't see how your leadership at the time was doing. He walks around like a peacock. He walks around like he's got these things won. He wins an election because it was a presidential election. He walks around like we just had championed all this. It was all the numbers.
The Democrats have this hero worship. Oh, like you just said, Democrats did well in the presidential election. Well, you should when you have the numbers. But the character and the leadership is tested when the odds are against you and continue to mount against you. Then we find out what you're made of.
I wouldn't have been.
We learned in 2022 that the leadership here has clay feet. The leadership statewide has clay feet. This hero worship, oh, let me congratulate you. Send out a couple of Facebook posts, tweets. Wow, you did such a great job, leading our local party.
Well, David,
but you give up.
David, I'm going to have to interrupt you for just a minute because, it's the half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And at the half hour, I want to talk 2 minutes about those important things around us. Like I want to, you know, Jay in Washington
Mm-hmm.
wants to invite you to be part of our organization. I want to, J&W does sponsor this,
Yeah.
even though it is us, we're
Yay.
we're the primary sponsor of
Yes.
this podcast, and you can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
What we want you to do is we want you to be interested in politics. We want you to know that if you're interested in politics right now, today, you should be calling us
Yes.
at 689 800 4212.
Mm-hmm.
You should be calling us because it's important that you start talking the dialogue about where you may fit into the scene, into the political sphere.
Correct.
If you're not, and it doesn't have to be us, we can't handle every account. But if you're interested in politics and you're not reaching out now to those people, then you're going to fail. That is our announcement for today. But we also want to talk about, there are some things coming down. Our friends in the Hispanic community, they're planning this wonderful party in July. Can't wait to be able to promote that every single Thursday.
Yes.
This political salsa is back. It's going to be stronger than it's ever been. It's going to be totally different from what you experienced, but it's going to be better. So moving on, let's get back to the state government, but that's our interruption for our commercial.
With the Democrats, we need still a couple of pages from the Republican playbook. We need to steal a couple of pages from the Stacey Abrams playbook. We need to look at our own playbook first and say, hey,
didn't Stacey lose?
She
didn't she lose?
Not the Stacey Abrams campaign.
No.
Playbook,
didn't she lose?
But yes, she did.
Okay,
but the statewide, and that's a whole different issue.
She lost. I mean, I'm sorry. She lost because she went too deep. There's a problem when you get to a point where you ignore any portion,
mm-hmm.
and you get so entrenched. Same thing. Mm-hmm. She kicked a portion of the people out.
Exactly.
And that's where she screwed up.
Yes.
She has a great idea. She talks about, voting, getting all these people involved, but then she totally closes the fact out, because I'm going to tell you something. Everybody in this country, the majority, are not like the progressives. They want an ID at voting. You can't make this shit up. That's one thing that you should not ever say about voting, is to have somebody walk up, smile, and vote. It just doesn't work. So, I mean, yes, relax the rule and all the stuff she talks about. I tried to get through a whole show with her talking about this stuff, and I was like,
yes, it's hard to take.
Okay. But, again, a portion kicked out.
Yes, I agree with that. A portion was kicked out, alienated, and she suffered from it.
So it's you and me.
Mm-hmm.
It's you and me. Same thing we keep talking about. You can't do it alone. Correct. You need the different voices. You need to understand there's a middle ground. So I every time we talk, David, I want people to know you and I don't agree on everything.
Correct.
And I probably interrupt you probably more than anybody else. But
I've totaled about 29 times.
Okay, there you go. So, but it's like, because I want to hype what you're talking about, because I see it.
Mm.
This turnout is horrible.
And I'll have a show. It's premiering December 1st. It's untitled at this point, but after Thanksgiving, you'll hear it. You'll see it. I'm looking forward to it. But to address that point, it's disheartening. A Chicago Democrat. I've been in and out of politics. You know my story.
Mm-hmm.
It's disheartening to see good people, not just the candidates that we supported, but good people lose an election because of a poor support structure, party structure, poor organization, a poor comprehensive strategy. And deep down, I knew I knew what was coming. 2 years ago, during the elections for the local Orange County Democratic Party, I ran for state committeeman. And in the little 2 minutes that I was given to state my case as to why people should vote for me, I started off saying, we had our asses handed to us, and the ass whooping is not done. And I tried to finish why I said that. You can't in 2 minutes. I just couldn't. And what I wanted to say is that, folks, the red tide, the red wave is on its way. You can't sit back and enjoy these wins in 2020. It was an anomaly. We've got to put some work into this. Mm-hmm. No one wanted to hear those statements. There's no precinct captain structure that's effective. No vision. There's potential leadership out there. Mm-hmm. However, to be effective and prepare for the next decade and rebuild and move from a place of strength and not weakness and fear, it's going to take a team effort. And I just don't see that at this point. I'm willing to do what I need to do. We have the resources. Mm-hmm. However, it's the will of those Democrats there.
Well, I don't think they believed you. And I don't call this an interruption. I don't think they believed you in the fact, again, they had the numbers. They did win.
Good point, Joel.
And their leadership told them that they won for other reasons.
Good point.
And the Republicans just looked and went, we're outnumbered. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is we're now going to make them spend money by putting people in races that they don't expect us to. Mm-hmm. We will not abandon a seat. Oh my God, we had people running for District 10 that had no shot at it. And I mean, you know how much money? Let's put this down into perspective. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're spending $10,400 to get on the ballot because you're a partisan, right? So if you have 8 candidates, and I, off the top of my head, I know you guys had 10 in the Democrat Party, but that's a lot of money,
right?
That's 8 candidates. That's over $80,000.
That's right.
Okay, now I don't know exactly what goes to the party, but I know a portion goes to the party.
Yes.
And then that gets reinvested.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to gain 4 seats. Yeah, we'll take your money. You want to run in 10? We know you're not going to win, but we're going to use your money over in 7. We'll use your money over in 13. We'll use your money up in 4. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to take 4 new seats, right? We know we're going to take 4 seats because we got all that money. We made sure that we had a primary with 8 people, and the one that came out of it, partisan.
Correct.
I like Wimbish. I like the man. But I know for a fact that he could not continue with that message and win. He needed to say, it's not about party. It's about knowing what to do when you get there.
Yes.
He should have taken his age and his wisdom and said, look, guys, I want you to trust me. I'm going to go up there and represent you. I'm not going to represent me. And it just sounded like the conversation he was having was about himself, his Lord, his Savior. I don't need a pastor up there. I need somebody who's going to do the job. And even if I'm a Democrat or a Republican, and I see that you're going to take care of me, and you have a child running against you, an Uber driver, and I've watched AOC come from the bartender into there. Listen, I have a lot of respect for AOC. I think she's crazy as crazy can be, but she shares so much behind the scenes that people understand how government works at a different level.
Yes.
I got captivated this weekend by Twitter. I don't know what it is. Twitter's all of a sudden become this thing because everybody's talking about it. But I watched her talk about how short a period of time they have to choose their leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I know I'm a maverick. I know I have nothing to do. But you know what? This is where they start offering you this and that. And they offered, the Republicans offered a Democrat a leadership position if he wanted to change parties. And people were tweeting all kinds of crap. I'm like, I'd do it. I'd do it if it was the right. It doesn't change me. I'm still a Democrat, right?
Correct.
I'm just called a Republican. You can still respect the fact that now I have leadership on a committee. And guess what? As long as I take care of you at home, you don't care what party I am, you're going to vote for me.
And that's the bottom line. You're right, Joel. The essence that you're taking care of your constituents.
Now, I don't think, I just don't see right now, and I want to challenge this, right? I would love this to be wrong. I see Maxwell Alejandro Frost in Washington, D.C. That's it. I don't see him on the ground here taking care of constituent services, knowing what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has the respect for the veterans that have served this country that will have to come into that office. He better be prepared. Maybe he needs to go across the line and get some Republican or get somebody who cares about veterans. But he's going to have to get somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Or else that's going to be the same problem we have constituent services. We put 3 freshman congressmen in. Love Stephanie, love Val, love Darren. Doesn't matter if you love them. They failed us. They failed us because they were brand new. By the time they got their staffs together, they still had not done enough for the community.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, I sent you $1 billion. I don't care. If it didn't help me get my veterans benefits, if it didn't help me in any way,
right.
I'm sorry, it didn't help me get my Social Security benefits. People don't realize that's the essence of what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Constituent services. But we had 3 congressmen up in Washington not getting any legislation through. And then I'm sorry, I'll get on my soapbox, but this is exactly what we're talking about. We're going to have problems like that. Our state government, I sat there and watched your friend.
May I say one thing? I do give some credit to Representative Darren.
I give Darren Soto 100
are spot on.
100%. It's totally different, right. but he is the anomaly of the 3. But he's the one who's still there, right? You don't see Stephanie there.
Gone.
Yeah, and you don't see Val. She decided to run. Darren is there. He knows his people. He also, let me clarify this, because we're going way off topic. Darren Soto had double the size of any congressional district in the state of Florida.
Good point. Yes.
He literally had more constituents than any other representative up in Washington, D.C. He did a good job with what he had. Mm-hmm. And this is why we do a census. And this is why these lines get redrawn. So, Darren, I can't kumbaya you because you don't even know the VA is sitting right in front of you. We'll talk about that at a different time. But no, look, Darren Soto, he stuck it out. He's staying.
Yes.
He's doing the thing he needs to do. I'm so excited for District 7. Mm-hmm. I think that's lively. It's new.
Yes.
The media hates him, but I think he's a great guy. I mm-hmm. think Corey Mills, when you meet him, you know what he wants. He loves the people of Volusia and Seminole County. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, he loves the people of Orange County because when he first came here, he's met everybody from Seminole and Orange and Volusia. He took the time to get to know everybody.
Right.
You and I had met him.
Oh, yes. And I was impressed by him. I mean, he was very cordial with me and very welcoming. And he said, "I'm glad to see you again."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, that hits. That hits."
And those are the things. Darren Soto
Mhm.
doesn't have a manly handshake. Doesn't have a lot going for him. No. Sorry. But Darren Soto's a great guy.
He's a great
Look,
guy. But
the thing is, he's a great guy. And if you like the man, you like the man. He's doing what he needs to do. But right now, you had a state senator, a state senate candidate, state senate, right? Or no, state house that was running against the Green Party. He's
yes,
yeah. I keep forgetting his name.
now Representative-elect Bruce Anton.
Oh, Bruce. Bruce, I'm going to say this from my mouth to your ears. When you sat there and told a room full of black journalists, the NAACP, and everybody, you looked them in the eye and said, "You send me up to Tallahassee, I can't get shit done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to do what I can to work with them and get our voices heard."
That was the truth.
I sat there and said,
the
honesty from a politician, he's spot on.
Yes.
And now he's even more spot on because he could tell them, I can't do anything. I can't get anything out of committee. And he'd be right. So spot on. I appreciated him saying that.
That was on point.
But at least he's like, he represents the people in his district.
That's correct. And
he's going to go up there. He's going to let them be heard when there's no voice. I mean, you could yell as a Democrat right now. It doesn't matter.
Representative Escamani had a meme on her Twitter today showing her kind of like a deer in headlights, you know. I think it was it Representative Fine behind her? I can't remember.
Oh my God!
But
I couldn't even do it. You remember Bring America again? Couldn't even endorse Fine.
But you know, it showed the camera is wide, a wide shot. It pans in on her. It's an old recording, but it just shows her behind her mask. She had on her mask, and you just see her eyes just kind of glazed over as you know the Republican behind her is just going on.
Hey, do they push their seats further back? I'm sorry.
Are they in the room?
Yeah, well, I think they. I do think they are in the room. I don't think they're on the balcony. But Rishi Baga, don't give up. Excellent campaign.
We're there for you.
Hawkins, please do the things that your constituents need you to do. Because you definitely don't represent half of your 3/4. Yeah, I'd say 3/4 of your district didn't even get out to vote because they're in Orange County and they don't know who you are. Yeah. And you are no Renee Placencia.
Fred Hawkins is at the top of my Google alerts. So we're watching.
So, Anna Escamani, I'm going to tell you, I love you. As a Republican, I love you, your spirit, your energy, your excitement, the personal effort you give to every one of your constituents is unique. Never get my vote, sorry, but you always have my respect. And if you read my book, you might actually see how I feel about you, because I really do. Carlos Gammo Smith. I get to talk about the Democrats because Carlos, you lost because you've never been challenged, right? I invited you to my show this morning. Would have had a great conversation because I have a lot of respect for who you are and what you try to do. But you keep talking about being outspent. You were outmaneuvered.
Yes.
If you had been doing the things you always should have been doing, they couldn't have used the teacher votes against you. They couldn't have they couldn't have made you look any worse because they actually used stuff that you were. Look, I'm glad you got us art money, but that art money's not going to be any good because it's not protected by you because you didn't do the things you needed to. And I have always been a handshake away. I've always said, look, I defended the fact that Susan Placencia, I had never met her. I'm a Republican involved in all kinds of stuff. I'm at all kinds of events because I love my party. Whether my party loves me or not, doesn't matter. I love my party. I did not ever meet Susan Placencia.
Yeah.
That to me was shocking. Shocking. So when I told you, hey, I think you have a definition of a real ghost candidate running against you, you and I had a good conversation because it's true. I don't have a problem talking bad about my party, but I still told him, you better be careful because they're coming for you. I know Rishi Baga, when we tried to talk to the Democrats, I cried. I literally cried because I'd never seen. They wouldn't come out and say it. They kept going around it. The Democrat Party didn't want to be involved. Yet they wanted to go after David Smith. And I'll tell you,
why?
The difference between David Smith and his opponent and Rishi Baga and his opponent, I'm trying to find out what were you read? What were you reading? Were you reading the comic section of the newspaper? Because I swear you did not weigh your candidates. You didn't look at your candidates. You didn't evaluate them. You didn't put your money in the right spot.
Because, Joel, there is that disconnection that campaigns, electeds, candidates have with what's actually happening on a day-to-day basis. Many people in the local parties think they know what's going on, but I know they don't know what's going on because I'm not hearing their names in the conversations that we're having with people.
Oh, I love it.
We do this 24/7, 365.
I love it. If I say David Washington, before we had a partnership at all, locally, there are a lot of people that know you.
Mm-hmm.
You say my name, whether they like me or not, a lot of people know me.
That's correct.
But you go to the state and you start talking to these state players, they'll be all over it and go, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. You know why you don't know who it is? Because we're kicking your ass at the local level. Because we're finding those people that really want to serve, and you guys are just a machine. You're a machine that literally takes and sucks every bit of money out of them. And guess what? The only people that got rich, the Republican consultants that decided that they could use $297 million. All the media. Read my book again. The media. How much? You can't tell me Channel 2 that talked to all these Democrats didn't make a difference because as soon as you were done talking about the Democrats, you had 4 commercials back to back that said the same thing. You said, the Rishi thing is not even true. Yes, we know it's not true, but it's fun. It was fun. And, somebody goes, it's stuck in my head. I can't get this out.
Yes.
Rishi Baga, radical Rishi Baga, stuck in my head.
Stuck in their head.
And you know what?
Democrat.
You did a good job. But your news media said it was fake. But because you have to put it on the air, it worked.
Yes, it did.
And I'm not a defender of this. I think Rishi Baga, if you get to know Rishi Baga, he's conservative enough to be tolerable. He's liberal enough to be electable. I just don't understand. We don't do enough.
The first Southeast Asian could have been the first Southeast Asian.
I'm going to say something.
The state legislature.
I'm going to say something right now, and I'm going to say it simultaneously. I'm not trying to interrupt you. He didn't have breasts, and your party. I'm sorry. Our party tries to do it every once in a while, but your party went and said, that's a woman running against that Marine. I'm going to support her. No. You got a man against a man, and he's Asian. You have never had one before. Look, it's not about firsts. It's about listen to him. He's the future of your party, and you didn't spend a dime on him.
The liberals shout to the highest mountaintops, diversity. equity, inclusion.
Well, I'll tell you, if I look at your candidates over, I mean, I'm sorry, Bernie Sanders, Biden, that's the typical Democrat you guys are voting for. And now you're all about women. You're all about women, and guess what? I I, I see it. I see it. You would rather support a woman than a man. Okay, so the Me Too movement. I don't. What is it with the way the blows? You can't do it the way the wind blows. You've got to evaluate everybody. It should be, look at me, guys, a resume. You should be looking at who the
Yes.
best individual for the job is.
That's correct.
Rishi Baga beat two other candidates,
That's
a
correct.
male and a female.
That's correct.
He didn't win by a huge majority. He won by a simple vote. Like how many? I can't even remember, but
176.
176 votes. My God, he was your nominee.
I'm sorry, 56. 56.
He was your nominee.
Right.
There was no recount. He was your nominee. And what'd you do?
Walked away. They walked.
You went to somebody who I don't even think she had a primary.
Sarah.
Sarah, did she have a primary? If she had a primary, I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
I didn't even know who she was until I got my first mailer.
Right.
But I want to wrap up by saying our parties are broken in certain ways.
Sure.
But right now, I think the Democrats have to take and learn from this, and the Republicans can't just expect to outspend because we're not going to always have the money.
That's correct.
You spent 297 million. How are you going to raise 279 million? Okay, I'm just saying. I know how it is to raise money. It's not easy.
Right.
So it's 1 hour. You can't make this shit up. I guarantee you. We're coming on the end. So you got like 2 minutes to wrap everything up, and the 2.5 minutes. I'm out of here. I'm so happy with what you're saying, even though I'm disappointed.
Oh yes, I'm disappointed too, and being disappointed is not a good feeling. But however, it's not about feeling. I don't care how people feel. I care about what people know, and we know. Mm-hmm. We know the business of politics, and we know where the votes are. We know that relationships are important, and we know that we can bring the best people with great ideas to represent their communities. And we know there's a lot of work ahead of us, a lot. But stay tuned. There's more. This is our election 2022.
You still got plenty of time. You still got plenty of time, so don't give up.
I'm not wrapping up. I'm just saying, there's more. There's a lot more discussion. We have the Maury Poop that Joel is doing. My show will debut December 1st. It's untitled at this point. However, we'll continue these discussions. And with the other entities that we are involved in, we will continue to reach out to you, encourage you to be a part of our community and grow this community so that we do have the best people representing us with the best ideas and make America better.
Yeah, like I say, let's make America great by building back better. If you want to get in touch with us at Jay in Washington, if you're thinking of doing anything in the future with politics or just promotion, you need to call 689-800-4212. Again, that's 689. Why that area code just kills me. 689-800-4212. And we can't wait to talk to you. Thank you very much.
All right.